Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. I got an email from Cubria White. The subject line says hole and exploding sun. And then in the email, check this out. Giant hole 60 Earths wide in the sun. This stuck out to me because I have noticed this before. I've done videos about the sun. I've done videos about stars. And I looked into these articles. And there's a couple interesting things that I want to point out. But I've noticed that there's a lot of things going on with stars, including our own star, the sun, within just the last few years. And so I want to look over this one of these articles that Cubria sent, and then after that, show you all the other things that have been going on. And it's kind of crazy, and I feel like there's signs. There's signs in the heavens. So before we get into all that, I want to give you the update on the Flood the Earth Challenge. We're at 7,415 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared, which is one up from the last time that I updated it. So good job, that one person that did that. Hopefully we can continue to make progress. Remember, we're trying to get to at least 10. Like the goal is to try to share at least 10 per individual, with the ultimate goal to try to get to 10,000 total. Which I know that we'll get there because we just continue to have steady progress. And then we're trying to get to 1,000 people that have joined the challenge, and we're getting close to that. We're about to hit 800 pretty soon. Okay, so before we get into the article that she shared, I want to give you some of the context through which I view these things. So we've read this a million times, but let's do it again. This is President Nelson's talk called Overcome the World and Find Rest, his main talk or longest talk of the October 2022 General Conference. And he says, "But my dear brothers and sisters, so many wonderful things are ahead. In coming days, we will see the greatest manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen. Between now and the time he returns with power and great glory, he will bestow countless privileges, blessings, and miracles upon the faithful." Now, he doesn't elaborate what those manifestations of power are going to be. Undoubtedly, it's going to have to do with things with the church, maybe missionary work, which, again, we're seeing a surge of people going on missions. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's also other things in nature, things in politics, geopolitics, the world, space, everything. So with that in mind, I want to read just a couple quick scriptures. D&C 88:87. "For not many days hence, and the earth shall tremble and reel to and fro as a drunken man, and the sun shall hide his face, and shall refuse to give light, and the moon shall be bathed in blood, and the stars shall become exceedingly angry." And I want you to remember that phrase, shall become exceedingly angry. I'm going to highlight it in yellow. "And cast themselves down as a fig that falleth from a fig tree." You know, there's all sorts of speculation, and I think that's fine. The one thing I don't think any of us should do is pretend that we know exactly what this means. I know that, for example, stars casting themselves down may sound like shooting stars, and maybe that's what it is. Or some people have said satellites burning up in Earth's atmosphere. There's been all sorts of different ideas, and I think that's fine. Ultimately, who knows? But we'll see it when we see it. But in the meantime, I want to keep track of these signs in the heavens and different things that could qualify as the sun hiding his face. For example, before we move on to these next two scriptures, earlier this year there was a unprecedented event where because of large wildfires and many wildfires in Canada, the smoke from those fires obscured the skies over many, many cities, both in Canada as well as the United States, and all the way across the Atlantic in Spain and Portugal, as far east as Madrid at the least. So this is a really big event that took place during the summer of this year, in which the sun was dimmed, it was darkened, and the moon was turned to blood, for example. that could be one thing that these scriptures are referring to: wildfire smoke, obscuring stars, the moon, changing the color of the moon, the sun, things like that. It could be stuff like that. It could also be literal things. Right now, I'm kind of the opinion of this. President Hinckley said in the General Conference right after 9/11 that Joel chapter 2, verses 28 to 32 have been fulfilled. And in those verses, it talks about the sun going dark and the moon turning to blood and all that stuff. And I believe him. I also believe, just based on other things that I've read, it does seem like there's going to be some kind of literal, maybe more literal darkening of the sun. But it seems to be at the time of the second coming itself. And before you say, well, which appearance? I'm talking about when Christ literally comes to earth to like the Jews and to the world, like not the secret appearances, when he comes openly to the Jews and to the rest of the world. Okay. Those appearances. So I think that's how it's going to go, because Bruce R. McConkie seems to have talked that way, Joseph Fielding Smith and others. So that's my current view. And I'm not going to like say that that's absolutely right. Let's just wait and see what happens. But anyway, let's go to Joel chapter 3, verse 15. The sun and the moon, I didn't mean to click on that. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Okay. And then Revelation 8, verse 12, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Again, is this literal? Is it symbolic? Is it both? Don't know. But we read it, and we'll just have to keep those in mind. So now we'll go over the article that Cabria sent, and then we'll go through all the other things happening to our sun and to other stars outside of our solar system. Gigantic hole in the sun, wider than 60 Earths, is spewing super fast solar wind right at us. Now, a lot of you were probably already aware of this because this happened a couple weeks ago. This is dated December 5th. And I believe it's this event right here that caused the aurora to go further south than normal. But there's a couple things going on here that I didn't know that are noteworthy. Okay. An enormous dark hole has opened up in the sun's surface and is spewing powerful streams of unusually fast radiation known as solar wind right at the Earth. The size and orientation of the temporary gap, which is wider than 60 Earths, is unprecedented at this stage of the solar cycle, scientists say. Okay, so it's not that there haven't been large holes before, quote unquote holes. And I've talked about this in previous videos. In fact, I went to those previous videos and found the links that I always leave links in the description box of every video so you can go and verify for yourself or read more about any story that I talk about. Okay, so let's see, not that. So for example, October 15th, 2015, space.com, giant hole in the sun is 50 Earths wide. So that was 2015. Futurism, July 2016, NASA found what appears to be an enormous dark spot on the sun. Here it is right here. August 2022, massive coronal hole in the sun. Will it impact Earth? Let's see, what's this one? November 2021, a giant hole in the sun is throwing out charged particles toward Earth. So I just want to show you them all, the ones that I know of. There's probably many more. March of this year, so earlier this year, a hole 30 times Earth size has spread across the sun, blasting solar winds that'll hit our planet by end of this week. So from what I've gathered reading these articles, this isn't out of the ordinary for large holes to appear in the sun. But and the thing is, I could maybe research it more to see if like they've increased in frequency, like they're happening more. I'm not sure about that. I haven't read anything that says that. But with this article that Cabria sent, it said that what's unusual is the timing of it. That hopefully you know that the sun goes through solar cycles, which are 11 years long, where they have increased activity, maximum activity at solar maximum, and then minimal activity at minimum. And so the sun is starting to ramp up to solar maximum. And so at this point in the solar cycle, it says unprecedented. So it's never happened before. There's never been a hole like this of this size at this point in the solar cycle. Okay, continuing. The giant dark patch on the sun, known as a coronal hole, took shape near the sun's equator on December 2nd and reached its maximum width of around 497,000 miles or 800,000 kilometers within 24 hours, spaceweather.com reported. Since December 4th, the solar void has been pointing directly at Earth. It is unclear how long the hole will remain in the sun, but previous coronal holes have lasted for more than a single solar rotation, or 27 days in the past, according to NOAA. However, the hole will soon rotate away from Earth. So here is the shape of the current hole. And as far as I know, maybe it's like gone at this point. I don't know. I'm not like other channels that follow the sun very closely. But so here it is. Okay. Solar activity has been ramping up all year as the sun nears the explosive peak in its roughly 11-year solar cycle, known as the solar maximum. However, in a bizarre twist, the gigantic new coronal hole is not supposed to be part of this increase in solar activity. Coronal holes can occur at any point throughout the solar cycle, but they are actually more common during solar minimum, according to NOAA. When they do emerge during solar maximum, they are normally located near the sun's poles and not near the equator. So let's refer back to this picture, and you can see it goes across the equator. It's not really even close to the poles. Okay, so unprecedented. This hasn't happened before at this point in the solar cycle, if I'm reading this correctly. And then the location of it on the sun is also unusual. Okay. Let's see. It is therefore a mystery how such a massive hole opened up near the equator when we are so close to solar maximum. However, over the last few weeks, there have been numerous other signs that the sun is getting more active. On November 18th, a gigantic sunspot archipelago, quote unquote, made up of at least 5 different sunspot groups, emerged on the sun's near side and has since spat out dozens of solar storms into space. On November 25th, an explosive canyon of fire, quote unquote, eruption near the sun's equator released a coronal mass ejection, or CME, a fast-moving cloud of magnetized plasma that later slammed into Earth and triggered rare orange auroras. And I have that up, by the way. I have the article in case you want to read about that. It's dated November 2nd. But here is like a video of it. And I guess this is what they're calling the, right here, this is what they're calling the Canyon of Fire. So that's a pretty crazy looking video. So that just happened. Okay. And then on November 28th, an almost X-class solar flare shot out of the sun and birthed a cannibal CME that hit Earth and triggered a geomagnetic storm, which lit up lower latitudes with auroras over the weekend. The recent surge in solar activity is likely a sign that we are right on the cusp of solar maximum. Okay, now, I don't know that the time of the second coming would coincide with solar maximum or minimum, I guess, but it would make sense to me. It makes sense the same reason why I think that it makes sense for the second coming to happen at or around the time of winter solstice because of its symbolic aspects. That from winter solstice onward, there starts to be more and more light, and ancient peoples viewed the sun as being resurrected at that time, because it's like the life of the sun. It's born at winter solstice and it grows and it stays longer, and then it reaches its peak in summer, but then it starts to fade and then it dies in winter. So symbolically speaking, it seems to me like that'd be a good time for the second coming. But for all I know, maybe this too, who knows? Maybe solar maximum would be a time. So that's something to consider. With that in mind, let's finish this off. In October, scientists revised their solar cycle forecast and now predict that the explosive peak could begin in early 2024. Well, you know what's happening in early 2024? That's when we're going to have the eclipse that goes over the Sacred Grove in Kirtland, Ohio. I don't know why I came here. I don't have a picture of the eclipse, but okay, I'll just kind of like act it out with my mouse. So it's basically going to come like it's going to make a path like this, and it's going to go over the Kirtland Temple and the Sacred Grove. The previous eclipse in 2017 went over Jackson County and Adirondack, and then the one in October went over Utah. And I do have a little thing on Google Earth for that. Do that and then do temples. That eclipse went through the state of Utah, and it took the only path it really could take to miss the maximum number of temples. Don't ask me what it means. I don't know that it means anything. I just think that it's unlikely. It's very odd that if it was going to pass through Utah, of all states, that it would go through the one path to miss all the temples except for the Monticello, Utah temple. You see this one here, but this is the Manti temple. It's at the time of the eclipse, it was it was out of commission. It was being renovated. And the Ephraim temple is either simply announced or it's under construction. I don't know at this time. So, okay. So you have solar maximum that's going to be coinciding, or at least the beginning of solar maximum is going to be coinciding with early 2024. And we've talked about all the other things that go with 2024. At that point, we're then going to be in President Nelson's 7th year as president of the church, and it'll be his 40th anniversary as an apostle. And that's going to be in April, by the way, on April 7th. And then just all the other things. I'm not going to repeat it all, but there's a lot of interesting numbers that seem to be converging on 2024. And now we have this, where they've moved up the forecast for solar maximum, and it's going to be starting in early 2024. So I wouldn't be surprised. Now, let's do this next. Let's do. I have two places that I'm going to show you. One is going to be on my tracker, on my spreadsheet for the Second Coming timeline. But the other place is just here, all these different tabs that I have pulled up. So, okay, so we'll start here with Newsweek. September 7th, 2022. The sun just produced an explosion so big it will be studied for years. Okay, I did a video about that a while ago. So that's an interesting thing that happened with the sun recently, last year. Interestingly, just a couple days before President Nelson's birthday. Okay, space.com. The brightest gamma ray burst ever seen, the largest known explosion since the Big Bang, has a unique jet structure unlike any other. So this happened exactly 7 days after President Nelson said that we would see the greatest manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen. And I'm not saying that he's referring specifically to this event, but what I will tell you is that we literally saw the most powerful thing that we've ever seen a week after he said that. This is an explosion. It's the largest explosion and the brightest explosion that we've ever seen. It's called a gamma ray burst. This happened 7 days after President Nelson said that we would see the most powerful manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen. And that was fulfilled in a very literal way. A gamma ray burst is essentially the result of part of a supernova. It's a star that explodes. And so, in essence, it's a star that dims, that doesn't give light like it used to after it explodes. So, could this be one thing? I mean, will we see other supernovas? Who's to say that we won't? Maybe what'll happen is we'll start to see a bunch of stars go supernova. I mean, that doesn't quite make sense, but it could. That could happen. See, a third part of them were darkened. It's in D&C 88 that it says that they'll cast themselves down as a fig that falleth from a fig tree, which you could also see as this right here. Not that it's like literally falling down, not that you can see it with the naked eye and it looks like it's falling out of the sky, but it's falling from what it once was. It's no longer a star like it was before. So that's just interesting to note. Here we are again at space.com. Strange, unprecedented vortex spotted around the sun's north pole. And this was February of this year, 2023. And I thought I pulled it up. Maybe not. Okay, we'll just look at this. Okay, so there's like a swirling motion right here. Watch this thing. And right now, you see how there's like this swirling, not cloud, but plasma or whatever, swirling around the North Pole of the sun. Like a crown. Some people have said it's like a crown, and yeah, maybe. But the fact remains they haven't seen anything like this before. At least not to this extent. There have been like much, much smaller ones, but one this big they have not seen. Like it says, strange, unprecedented vortex spotted around the sun's north pole. So that's another. So it had its most powerful CME, or at least not most powerful, but like a CME so large that they're going to be studying it for years. That was last year. And here we are this year, the sun with a strange vortex on top of it that they haven't seen before, at least not that size. March of this year, from the Weather Channel, watch monstrous solar tornado. The size of 14 stacked Earths swirls at the sun's north pole. And on X, you can watch it. And there it is. There's nothing in this article that says that it's unprecedented or record-breaking, but it obviously made some news. It's at least unusual enough that it made news. So that happened as well. So a vortex at the North Pole, a gigantic quote-unquote tornado on the sun. And then this, May of this year, we've just observed the most powerful solar flare ever recorded. Now, this wasn't from our sun. It was from another star in the Orion constellation. But it's the most powerful solar flare ever recorded. So we've seen the largest explosion ever recorded, at least by modern instruments, and that we recognize as the largest explosion we've ever seen. And then we see the largest solar flare. This is like within a year of each other. Okay, there's some interesting things going on in space right now, these last couple of years. June of this year, solar activity is ramping up faster than scientists predicted. Does it mean an internet apocalypse is near? So we already kind of talked about how they've forecasted solar maximum to be sooner than what they thought. Okay, space.com. sun breaks out with record number of sunspots, sparking solar storm concerns. This is dated July 3rd. I'm not going through like the body of these articles because we've already covered it before, but I just want to go through and kind of list all the different things that are going on. Record number of sunspots. It must be global warming, right? Global warming is so bad. It's now affecting the sun and the rest of the solar system. CNN, the sun's activity is peaking sooner than expected. Oh, I didn't need to have this up. Okay, whatever. And then there was this very strange thing that happened. Which rover was this? Oh, the Perseverance rover on Mars. What it was doing is it would take pictures of the sun, not to observe the sun, but to observe the atmosphere of Mars. Okay, like how like dust in the atmosphere and stuff like that. But so inadvertently, one day it took a picture of the sun and it captured a sunspot so large that it was able to see it from Mars with a very low resolution camera, as you can see right here. So that happened as well. They were a little bit nervous about it coming around and pointing toward Earth, but nothing happened. Daily Mail, NASA discovers sunspots so big it can be seen from Mars that could release solar storms that knock out Earth's power grids next week. So thankfully, that didn't happen. Okay, and then I want to... Sorry, I was kind of in a rush, as I usually am, to put this video together. So I've already covered some of this stuff, but... Okay, so here you go. October 9th. Okay, October 2nd was General Conference. 7 days later, October 9th, that's when you have Gamma Ray Burst GRB 221009A. The largest explosion ever seen. Oh yeah, and good thing I have this up. Because I covered it recently that it was so powerful that it affected our ionosphere for 10 hours. They didn't realize that till later because they had to collect all the data and analyze it and process it. But yeah, it lasted 7 minutes and affected the ionosphere for 10 hours. Two very interesting numbers. The numbers of perfection and completion. One in the sense of creation, the other in the sense of math. Okay, here's the vortex, February 2nd. Oh yeah, then we have Betelgeuse, the right shoulder of Orion in the Orion constellation. We got to go back to, oh gosh, got to go back to 2020. Actually, no, 2019. So here's a star that dimmed. Its brightness dimmed. How is it worded in the scriptures? Not that. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Yeah, this star literally, it went dark, and they named the event the Great Dimming. And that went from November 2019, which was just before the COVID-19 pandemic started, and it remained dark. Technically, they're saying that it is still, it's not back all the way. There's still some obstruction from the Great Dimming. But then it ended in March, and that's the month that the missionaries were called home and temple work ceased. All the temples were closed. So we had that happened. Okay, a star going dark. Okay, and then this year, April 2023, that same star started shining 150% its usual brightness. Now, like I said, in a recent article, they said that it still hasn't fully recovered from the Great Dimming, so there must be still some kind of obstruction. But taking that into account, it is still now brightening 150% its usual brightness. And I guess if like the remaining effect of the great dimming was gone, then maybe it'd be 151% or something like that, its usual brightness. So because it increased in brightness, it moved from the 10th brightest star in the sky, in the night sky, to 7th brightest. And it has a bright to dim cycle, and that started going twice as fast as usual. So weird things going on with Betelgeuse and other stars and our own sun. Just a month later, that's the most powerful solar flare ever recorded, star system V1355 Orionis. Let's see, did I have anything else? I thought I did. Yeah, okay. Vela pulsar, highest ever energy from gamma rays from a pulsar discovered. A pulsar is a type of star. So another, I'll just what it says, highest ever energy. So largest solar flare, most powerful explosion ever seen. And now the highest ever energy pulsar. Within the last couple of years, there's a lot of things going on with stars, things that we've never seen before. Like really powerful things. Really powerful. Okay, and that might be the last one. Oh yeah, no, this is the last one. On the 14th of November, that's exactly 1 month ago, a paper came out where astronomers spotted an aurora on the sun for the first time. Not visually, but what I didn't know until I saw this is that I guess auroras produce a type of radio signature that's unique. And so that's what they detected on the sun. And unfortunately, everything that I read about this, it didn't give the date that it was observed. So it may have been before November of this year. For all I know, maybe it was last year, but the paper came out in November, so it was probably somewhat recent. So you got that, and you have that vortex on the sun's north pole. So there are definite signs going on in the heavens. And again, do these qualify as stars darkening? Do they qualify as stars getting angry? Do they qualify as stars falling like figs from a fig tree? I don't know. It may be a combination of many different things, or it could be a big dramatic thing that happens right before the second coming. Don't know. But I think we would be wise to pay attention to this when there's all this stuff that starts happening that we've never seen before. It's probably meant to get our attention for those that are watching, for those that have eyes to see and ears to hear. This is how we know that we're getting closer to the second coming. So, all right, well, that's it for this one. Thank you again, Cabria. If you guys haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.